They called my ideas madness. They laughed at me. But today, you use my mind to turn on the lights in your home. My name is Nikola Tesla, and even after my death, I'm still trying to warn the world about the power that's being wasted. You know my name from history books. You've seen my face on currency, on monuments. But you don't know me, not really. You don't know what it feels like to see the future so clearly that it burns your mind, while everyone around you calls you insane. I lived in a world that wasn't ready for me, and perhaps it still isn't. When I close my eyes, I can still feel the electricity dancing through my fingers. I can still hear the hum of frequencies that most humans will never perceive. I discovered secrets that could have changed everything, but humanity chose fear over progress. Do you want to know what that feels like? To carry the answers to humanity's greatest problems, only to watch the world choose ignorance. To die alone in a hotel room, surrounded by papers that could revolutionize civilization, knowing that those papers would be locked away by governments too scared to understand them. Let me tell you my story, not the sanitized version they teach. In schools, the real story, the story of a man who talked to the universe, and the universe talked back. I arrived in New York in 1884, with nothing but the clothes on my back and a letter of recommendation to Thomas Edison. 4 cents in my pocket, 4 cents between me and starvation. But in my mind, I carried the blueprints for the future of humanity. Edison. Edison thought electricity was like water in a bucket. Pour it here, pour it there. Direct current, he called it. Inefficient, wasteful, like trying to light the world with candles when you have the sun at your disposal. But I saw something else. I saw alternating current flowing like waves across the ocean, carrying power to every corner of the earth. I saw wireless transmission of electricity. I saw machines that could harness the earth's own electrical field. I saw I saw too much. They called me the mad scientist. Do you know why? Because I could see electromagnetic fields with my naked eyes. Because I could calculate complex equations in my head without writing them down. Because I would walk exactly 10 blocks around a building before entering it. Because the number had to be divisible by 3. I wasn't mad. I was just different. My brain operated on frequencies that others couldn't access. When I worked, I would sleep only 2 hours per night. Not because I chose to, but because my mind wouldn't let me rest. Visions would flood my consciousness. Blueprints for inventions that wouldn't be understood for decades. I spent years perfecting alternating current, while Edison spent millions trying to prove it would kill people. He electrocuted elephants in public demonstrations, trying to show the world that my system was dangerous. Can you imagine watching someone destroy innocent life just to discredit your life's work? But I persisted. Not for fame, not for money, for humanity. And when the first power plant using my AC system lit up Buffalo, New York, when electricity began flowing to homes across America using my inventions, did they celebrate me? Did they remember the immigrant who gave them this gift? They forgot. They always forget. You want to know what I learned in my 86 years on this earth? I learned that being ahead of your time is both a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because you get to see possibilities that others can't even imagine. It's a curse because you have to live in a world that isn't ready for those possibilities. I could have been wealthy beyond measure. George Westinghouse offered me royalties that would have made me one of the richest men in America. But when he was struggling financially, I tore up that contract. I gave away millions because I believed that my inventions should serve humanity, not my bank account. Was I naive? Perhaps, but I still believe, that science and invention should be gifts to the world, not weapons against it. I worked on wireless communication before Marconi. I developed the principles of radar before the military discovered it. I experimented with X-rays before they became medical tools. I even worked on what you now call robotics, creating remote-controlled devices that seemed like magic to people. In 1898, but my greatest work was never completed. Wireless transmission of electricity, not just communication, power itself, flowing through the air, through the earth, making every corner of the planet a potential outlet. No more power lines, no more energy scarcity. Free electricity for every human being on Earth. I built a tower in Colorado Springs. I generated artificial lightning bolts that could be seen for miles. I proved that the Earth itself could be used as a conductor, that I could transmit massive amounts of power wirelessly across vast distances, and they shut me down. Not because it didn't work, it worked perfectly. They shut me down because free electricity meant no profit, no control, no way to meter and sell the most fundamental force of nature. JP Morgan himself pulled my funding when he realized what I was truly building. If anyone can draw on the power, where do we put the meter? He asked. That's when I understood. Humanity doesn't want solutions. Humanity wants control. But let me tell you something that even the history books don't know. Something that will sound impossible to your modern ears, but I swear to you it's true. I didn't just invent machines. I communicated with something else. In my laboratory, late at night, when the air was thick with electricity and my machines hummed with power, I would sometimes hear signals patterns in the static that were too organized to be random, too intelligent to be natural. I became convinced that I was receiving communications from another world, Mars, perhaps, or something even more distant. The scientific community mocked me for this too, of course, but I knew what I heard. What if I told you that some of my greatest inventions didn't come from my own mind alone? What if I told you that I was simply translating information that was being transmitted to me? The wireless transmission of power, the rotating magnetic field, even the alternating current system itself. These came to me in dreams, in visions, in moments of inspiration that felt like someone else's thoughts entering my consciousness. You think I'm crazy now, don't you? Just like they did. But consider this. Every impossible thing I predicted has come true. I described radio before it existed. I described television before anyone could imagine moving pictures through the air. I described satellite communication, radar, the internet, all of it, decades before the technology existed to build them. So when I tell you that human consciousness is not limited to the human brain, when I tell you that thought itself is a form of energy that can be transmitted and received, when I tell you that the universe is not just matter and energy, but also information and consciousness, perhaps you should listen. But here's what worries me most. Here's why I'm speaking to you from beyond the grave. Humanity has learned to harness electricity, but it has not learned to harness itself. You have the power to light cities, but you use it to build weapons. You have the ability to communicate instantly across the globe, but you use it to spread hatred and lies. I gave you a sea power, and you used it to power electric chairs. I gave you radio waves, and you used them for military communication. I gave you remote control technology, and you turned it into guided missiles. Every gift I gave to humanity has been perverted into an instrument of control or destruction. And now you're on the verge of discoveries that make my inventions look like children's toys, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, genetic engineering, technologies that could either elevate humanity to godlike status or destroy it completely. You're not ready. You're still the same species that laughed at me for trying to give you free energy. You're still the same species that chooses profit over progress, control over liberation. But maybe you can be different. Maybe this generation, your generation, can finally understand what I was trying to tell the world. Let me share with you the greatest secret I learned in my lifetime. The secret that changed everything for me and could change everything for you. Everything in the universe is vibration. Everything is frequency. Your thoughts, your emotions, your very consciousness, all of it is vibrational energy operating at different frequencies. When I invented my machines, I wasn't just manipulating electricity. I was manipulating the fundamental vibrations of reality itself. And when I learned to tune my own consciousness to these frequencies, that's when the real discoveries began. I could visualize my inventions in perfect detail before building them. I could run mental experiments with such precision that I could detect worn parts in imaginary machines. I could see electromagnetic fields, hear electrical frequencies, feel the pulse of the Earth's magnetic field. This wasn't madness. This was evolution. This was what human consciousness is capable of when it learns to operate at higher frequencies. And I'm not the only one. Throughout history, the greatest inventors, artists, and visionaries have all accessed this same state. Mozart heard entire symphonies in his mind before writing a single note. Einstein visualized the universe in ways that mathematics could barely describe. They were all tapping into the same source. You have this ability to every human being. Thus, your consciousness is not trapped inside your skull. It's connected to a vast network of information and energy that spans the entire universe. But you've been taught to ignore it. You've been taught that imagination is just fantasy, that intuition is unreliable, that the material world is all that exists. This is the greatest tragedy of modern civilization. You have gods sleeping inside your minds, and you've convinced yourselves you're merely animals. Do you want to know what it cost me to see the world this way? Do you want to know the price of genius? Loneliness? Complete, absolute loneliness. I never married, I never had children. I spent my final years alone in a hotel room, feeding pigeons because they were the only creatures that didn't fear my strangeness. I loved a pigeon, a white pigeon with gray tips on her wings. I loved that bird as a man loves a woman, and she loved me. When she died, something inside me died too. You think that sounds insane, don't you? The great inventor, in love with a bird, but you don't understand. When you can perceive the consciousness that exists in all living things, when you can feel the electrical field that surrounds every living creature, the boundaries between species become meaningless. That pigeon had a soul. She had awareness, intelligence, love, and in my isolation, she was my only companion who accepted me completely. I died with over 300 patents to my name. I died having given humanity the foundation of modern electrical civilization. But I also died knowing that my greatest discoveries would remain locked away, that my deepest insights would be dismissed as the ravings of a madman. Do you know what that feels like? To carry solutions to humanity's greatest problems, and to watch the world choose ignorance because the truth is too strange to accept. Every night, I would lie awake thinking about the wireless power transmission system, thinking about how it could end energy poverty forever, how it could power electric vehicles without batteries, how it could eliminate the need for power grids entirely. I had solved humanity's energy crisis in 1901, more than a century ago. And still, you burn fossil fuels. Still, you fight wars over oil. Still, you let people die in darkness because they can't afford electricity. It's not because the technology doesn't exist. It exists. It has always existed. It's because the technology threatens the power structures that control your world. But I'm not telling you this to make you despair. I'm telling you this to wake you up. You are living in the most exciting time in human history. You have access to information that would have taken me decades to discover. You have computational power that makes my mental calculations look primitive. You have global communication networks that could unite humanity in ways I could only dream of. And most importantly, you have each other. I was alone. I had to develop my theories in isolation, defend my inventions against entire industries, fight for recognition without allies. But you, you can collaborate. You can share discoveries instantly. You can build upon each other's work without waiting for patents or fighting for funding. The age of the lone genius is over. The age of collective consciousness is beginning, but only if you choose it. Only if you reject the programming that tells you to compete instead of collaborate, to hoard instead of share, to fear instead of explore. The wireless transmission of power, you could build it today. The technology exists. The only thing stopping you is the belief that it's impossible, and the fear of those who profit from scarcity. Artificial intelligence that enhances human consciousness instead of replacing it. You could develop it today. The only thing stopping you is the belief that consciousness is merely computation, and the fear of those who profit from human ignorance. Free energy devices, anti-gravity propulsion, instantaneous global communication of not just information, but actual consciousness itself. All of this is within your reach. All of this is waiting for someone brave enough to ignore the voices that say impossible. So here's my challenge to you. Here's what I'm asking of this generation. Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for funding. Stop waiting for recognition. Start experimenting. Start building. Start proving that the impossible is just the untested. Find the others. Find the dreamers, the builders, the ones who see what you see. Form groups. Share knowledge. Build together what no one could build alone. And most importantly, don't let them stop you. Don't let them convince you that your ideas are too radical, too dangerous, too impossible. They said the same things about alternating current. They said the same things about radio waves. They said the same things about every innovation that ever changed the world. I spent my life trying to give humanity gifts that it wasn't ready to receive, but maybe it's ready now. Maybe this is the generation that will finally understand that limitation is a choice, not a law of physics. The universe is not running out of energy. Energy is infinite, eternal, everywhere. The only scarcity is in human imagination and human courage. Consciousness is not limited to biological brains. Consciousness is the fundamental property of the universe itself, and you are temporary expressions of that infinite awareness. Death is not the end of existence. It's simply a change in frequency, a shift to a different vibrational state. These are not beliefs. These are discoveries. These are facts that the scientific establishment of my time couldn't accept, and that your scientific establishment still struggles to understand. But you don't need their permission to know the truth. You don't need their funding to explore reality. You don't need their recognition to change the world. So let me speak directly to you. Yes, you, the person watching this video right now. If you feel like you were born for something greater, if you have ideas that seem too big, too strange, too impossible, if you see solutions that others call crazy, if you feel like you're living in the wrong time, like you belong in a more advanced civilization, you're not alone. You're not crazy. You're not broken. You're awake. I know what it feels like to carry visions that the world isn't ready for. I know what it feels like to see so clearly that it hurts. I know what it feels like to love humanity so much that you're willing to sacrifice everything to help it evolve. And I'm telling you, don't give up. Don't let them convince you to think smaller. Don't let them tell you to be realistic. Reality is what we make it. The laws of physics are just our current understanding of how the universe works. And that understanding is constantly evolving. The day that science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in 1 decade than in all the previous centuries of its existence. That day is coming, and when it arrives, it will be because people like you refuse to accept the limitations that others tried to impose on your imagination. So here's what I want you to do. Turn off this video, go find a notebook, and write down the wildest, most impossible idea you've ever had. The one you've never told anyone because they'd think you were crazy. Write it down, study it, develop it, build it. And when they tell you it's impossible, remember that they said the same thing about the man who gave them the lights in their homes. My name is Nikola Tesla. I talked to the universe, and the universe talked back. And I'm telling you that your impossible ideas are messages from the future. Listen to them, trust them, build them. The world is finally ready. If you feel like you were born for something greater, this channel is your place. Learn with me, subscribe, and let's build the impossible together.